If being a masculine man means accepting the burden of others, why would anyone want to be a man by that definition?
Where did that definition come from?
You tell me.
Man-made.
Does society shame men more for being strong and masculine, or does it shame men more for being weak?
Definitely shames men more for being weak. I mean, I think women just expect a man to be masculine and the leader.
It shames men for being weak, and that's a good thing.
Shaming them for being weak, for sure.
Why do people think that society shames men more for being strong and masculine than it shames men for being weak?
Because it's like a social construct that men are supposed to be tough and like not have feelings, and that they're not allowed to have the same vulnerabilities as women.
Weak, to me, doesn't mean how much you can lift. It means how strong you are from the inside.
I mean, I think a strong man is confident in who he is, but people are kind of getting more and more attacked for that, so it's hard to be confident in who you are if you feel like you're going to get hate for it.
What constitutes a weak man versus a strong man?
Their feminine energy, how much they lean into their feminine and how much they embrace their masculine.
Yeah, because the weak men be acting like a bitch.
99% of America think that a weak man is one that has more emotions or is a little bit more emotional and expresses his feelings more. I see a weak man as someone who doesn't share their emotions or doesn't know how to communicate them or doesn't really know how to process them in a way.
A weak man is someone that, or a weak person, doesn't have enough strength to stand up for themselves and their opinions and their rights.
A weak man has no belief in God.
Why don't we have those same stipulations for women?
Maybe because most women do stand up for themselves.
It's like when women have emotions, they get like a pass, like, oh, like that's a woman, you know, they think with emotion, and they can't really, like, they're more emotional in a sense.
Does a woman have to be a feminist or masculine to be considered strong?
No.
I feel like that's something that has to do with what's being portrayed and what's being put on to the women. You got to be like this in order to be a strong woman. You got to be like this to be a strong man. So the women are taking back their strong. That's what I'm saying. The women are taking over.
Why don't we have those same stipulations for women?
We do, but it's in reverse. A woman needs to lean more into her feminine versus her masculine. They talk all the time about a masculine woman. We get equally hated as weak men.
By today's standards, wouldn't the Beatles and Michael Jackson be considered weak men despite them being adored by women?
In today's society, yeah. They'd be considered weak, yeah.
Why is that?
I think because they're not like super masculine. They're like a little feminine.
At the end of the day, everybody's going to look at them for their music. And when their music comes into play, nobody's thinking that they're weak.
Music. I think one of the reasons that musicians are so attractive is because they can be vulnerable, you know, and I think that men need to see that and need to see that they should be able to do that. And for some reason, you know, when you hold a piece of wood that makes music and you have a microphone and you have a voice that people can identify with, you can be vulnerable. But when you're just a regular person, you can't. And I don't know why that is, and hopefully we can change that.
Why don't women shame each other for being weak the same way men shame each other for being weak?
Men do that?
They call each other simps and beta males all the time.
Yeah, that you got me with that one. I think that
Women tend to support each other more than men do.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
That's the problem that we have as men. It's a competition with us. We want to be better than the next man. With women, they uplifting each other, and that's why they're gaining their feminism. They're gaining that back because they're learning to stop beefing with one another. That's what guys do. We beef trying to be better. And that's the issue.
Are women's dating standards too high, or are men just lazy?
Men are fucking lazy. Men are lazy as shit.
I'm lazy as shit. I'm lazy. I'm sorry, I'm lazy. I'm very lazy. Men are lazy. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with the women. We just lazy.
Depends what you mean by lazy, like not going to the gym or like not seeking a traditional job. I wouldn't say that men are being lazy.
Men can be lazy, but I also do think that sometimes women don't give them a chance.
I would say women's standards are higher for sure. I mean, they expect. I mean, you see on these interviews that people do. They're like, "Oh, we expect someone to be a millionaire," and like
I think
Women's standards are never too high. Men are just lazy, in my opinion.
be doing everything they possibly can, be absolutely jacked, and be able to, sugar daddy them up whenever they want.
Is there a sexist gender wage gap, or are women just lazy?
Most of the women I know are fucking hustlers. Most of the guys are bums. Well, not most of the guys, but a lot of guys are. Like, the average guy that I see is not working as hard as the average woman. So I think it's a lot of sexism when it comes to wage.
Why do so many people think that women behave badly because men today are weak?
Well, then, so if you believe that your actions are based on what somebody else does, because I hear a lot of women say, you got to have somebody to handle me. Well, let me tell you something. I don't want to have to handle anybody. Why should I have to handle you? That means you are a person that lacks discipline. You do not know how to act yourself. So the thing is that if you are assessing your behavior based on what somebody is or not, then that's more of a problem on you than whoever you're trying to place the blame on.
Why do we still expect men to be protectors based on the premise that men are stronger while also saying that men today are weak?
I think physically men are stronger, so they are seen as the protectors. So if a girl and a guy were walking and someone came up to mug them, I don't think that you'd expect the woman to fight that guy just because physiologically men are stronger.
Men are not weak. Men choose to be weak.
Why are men blamed for being weak every time they're violated? And how is that not the ultimate form of victim blaming?
I don't think that men are weak whenever they're coming forward about a time when they were under violation. But I do see that a lot of men get hate, like social media and in society today, just because they think that a woman is incapable of hurting a man, I guess.
A woman could get sexually assaulted and say, I was sexually assaulted, and they're going to go right to her. A man say I was sexually assaulted, they gonna laugh at him. Like, what you talking about? There's no way you could be just because we a man and we're stronger, bigger, that don't mean nothing. If I say no mean no. If you continue to grope me, to rub up on me, that's sexual assault.
Why aren't women blamed for being weak when they're violated? Aren't they expected to be strong and independent?
I think there are times where sometimes women are blamed. I think victim blaming can be both genders, but I do say that it's more common with men.
It's all about that double standard. That double standard been around for so long, and it's not going nowhere.
Do you think the pressures associated with being a man might account for why so many men are transitioning into women?
I'm sure that's part of it. Yeah. I think the other side can be attractive if you feel like you can't identify as a man without taking hate, without taking blame, without taking all of that pressure, all of that struggle, and you feel like the only way out is literally changing your gender identity. I could totally see that.
I think it might be contributing to like the feminine man epidemic, but I have a lot of trans friends, and that is such a journey, and it's so much deeper than dating or how you're perceived. I don't think anyone would go through that much of an expensive, hard, life-changing decision just so that they can have, quote unquote, dating benefits.
Why do people think that if you're not this macho alpha male, that means you want to put on a dress and wear makeup?
I think a lot of men think that because they're just insecure in their own masculinity. I think that the most masculine thing a man can do is allow other men to be how they want to be, and then they can be how they want to be.
Man, grow up and get some balls.
What a lot of people think of as a strong man, I think is a weak man. I think a weak man is someone who kind of just like judges too much and thinks they're like stronger than everybody. As well, like an actual strong man will agree when they're wrong and will understand like they make mistakes too, and it's okay to have emotions, and it's okay to be wrong sometimes, and it's okay to feel scared, and you don't always have to be the protector and the provider in every single situation. Like,
what is a woman?
Oh God, I'm not answering that one.
All right. Well, if a woman is an adult human female, why wouldn't an adult human male be the definition of a man?
I think that it is.
Why are there more burdens placed on a man to begin with?
Because I think since the dawn of humanity, men have always been given more responsibility, probably because back in like caveman times, they were physiologically stronger.
Well, wouldn't that reflect men's oppression compared to women?
In a way, I could definitely see where you're going with that one, yes.
If being a masculine man means accepting the burden of others, why would anyone want to be a man by that definition?
Where did that definition come from?
You tell me.
Man-made.
I believe masculinity depends on your definition. What is being masculine and who defines that? And at the end of the day, what standards do you have to uphold? That depends on every single person and their opinion.
If being masculine is a natural process, why are men often shamed to be sculpted that way?
Because people are angry about masculinity being in charge of things for thousands of years. And again, that's hard now. If you're born into this world, you don't really know exactly what it should be, what it means to be a man, because you feel like you're going to take hate for being too strong, for being too weak, for being too aggressive, for being too submissive. You don't really know where you're supposed to go, so you just got to do your best.
Why has religion been imposed as part of the men's masculinity movement, and what's the connection?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think just based on the way I was raised in Christianity, that's just how it goes. Like, those are the rules. God talks about men providing and making a way for the family and the woman taking care of the household. I think that's just always that's just like the rules. Like,
if men would believe back in God and go back to the premise of God is our creator, he is the one that created us, and pass that on to himself, his children, his wives, life would be better.
What do you think of the men who refuse to, quote, man up and get married? Are those men weak?
No, not at all. Maybe they just haven't found the right person.
Man up and get married, men. Man up and get married to the woman that you're in love with. And live with that woman, because that is what you're supposed to do.
Everybody has the choice to choose when they want to do what they want to do. If you don't want to get married right then and there, that's great. That's fine. You want to wait 10 years? Great. Go get married 10 years later. You don't have to do it. So that's the thing. Everyone wants to do what society tells them they should do. So yeah, you're supposed to go to school, get a diploma, get a job. But that's not the same for everybody. Just like getting a relationship is not the same for everybody. The way that you might find your soulmate is not going to be the same way that person may find their soulmate. It's not the same.
Why are single men seen as weak if they choose to masturbate?
I don't know. I feel like there's a big difference between like a porn addiction and a sex addiction than just like relieving yourself and doing something that's natural to the human body. Like, I think a lot of people just think of it as like, oh, like you can't get bitches. Like, no, maybe they just don't want to. I don't know. Girls are kind of sucky sometimes. Like, I'm a girl. I know. We can be fucking sucky sometimes.
If a guy who watches OnlyFans and masturbates is less masculine, is a woman who reads romance novels and uses a dildo less feminine?
No. No. I think she would be more feminine. She's learning her body, getting to know what she likes,
Why do some men believe in semen retention while other men feel like you gotta get the poison out?
I've never thought about that.
Does this have more to do with religion or science?
Science for sure. Yeah.
The thing is like if you keep letting your stuff go out, you don't have as much testosterone and girls notice.
So you believe in the whole no fap, the semen retention thing?
I mean, not like extreme, but like some guys are they're just doing it like 3 times a day.
Well, the question I have about semen retention is that how would your body know the difference between whether you're ejaculating into or outside of a woman? I mean, what difference does it make? I mean, couldn't you say that if you're in a relationship, you shouldn't have sex because you need to keep the semen inside?
You should no. What you should do
well, why does it make a difference whether it's masturbation or actual sex is my question.
You should save it up when you're in a relationship with a woman. Like, you should save it up for her, and then like only come with her. Not because it's you lose just as much, in fact.
Well, right, but I'm saying the argument behind semen retention is that you're more likely to like lose power and testosterone, and I'm saying, how does your body know the difference?
It doesn't. I mean, you lose your testosterone if
So
you
then,
have
isn't it
sex
really
with a
just
woman.
all about more of just bonding with your partner rather than losing your masculinity? I mean, that's the argument I hear, but on the semen retention, it doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree with you. There's a sort of circular logic to it, and I agree with that. That's why I say, just don't overdo it.
What is the difference between ejaculation during sex versus masturbation?
I mean, a physical woman is causing you to ejaculate when you're with a woman versus your left or right hand.
Is semen retention just a cope for not getting laid?
Probably. I'm sorry, but probably, yeah.
How can semen retention be healthy if there's also a term called postnut clarity?
I don't even know what the that means.
Postnut clarity, it's kind of like the feeling of clear-headedness after you nut.
After you nut. Oh my gosh, I feel like that happens to a lot of men actually. A lot of men that's all they're not thinking with their head, they're thinking with their other head. And so right when they get it all out, then they actually think with their other head again. And then it just hits them every time. Mm-mm-mm.